happened last Thanksgiving. My sister stood up in front of our entire family, lifted her wine glass, and announced that our parents were giving her the house and that I was getting nothing. Everyone laughed at first, thinking it was some kind of twisted joke, until my mom's eyes dropped to her plate and my dad took a long, guilty sip of his drink. That's when I felt my stomach drop. It wasn't a joke. My childhood home, the place I helped repaint, clean, and basically keep standing for years, was being handed to my older sister Emily, like it was some kind of prize she'd earned. And as I sat there, frozen with a smile that wasn't real, I realized something sharp and cold. They actually thought I'd just accept it. They had no idea. I already knew more than they thought and that I was about to turn their little plan completely upside down. My name is Harper. I'm 28, and this is the story of how my sister tried to steal my inheritance, how my parents let her, and how I made sure she regretted every second of it. Growing up, it was always Emily this, Emily that. Emily was the golden child, 3 years older, prettier in that conventional way, the straightest student who joined every club, dated the football captain, and made my parents beam with pride at every award ceremony. I wasn't a disaster or anything. I got decent grades, stayed out of trouble, and I was the one who actually did things around the house. I cooked when mom was tired. I cleaned up after dad's late night snack sessions. I helped paint the living room one summer when no one else wanted to. But if Emily so much as breathed in the direction of success, it was a family holiday. When I started community college instead of a 4-year university, my mom Margaret said, "Well, not everyone is meant for big things like your sister. It's okay, Harper." My dad, Daniel, would just pat my shoulder and say things like, "You're dependable." That's important too. I didn't know being dependable meant the one will walk all over later. Fast forward to last year, I had finally gotten my life somewhat together. I finished my nursing degree, landed a job at a decent hospital, rented a small apartment near work, and was paying my own bills. I didn't ask my parents for money. In fact, I'd been slipping them cash quietly when the house needed repairs and they couldn't afford it. The roof? I chipped in. The broken water heater? I paid half. Mom's sudden trip to the ER last winter? I covered the copay when their insurance was being weird. Meanwhile, Emily had moved back home again after divorcing her husband Jason. She quit her job for her mental health, as my mom liked to whisper defensively when anyone asked. And she spent most of her time looking for remote opportunities on her laptop while scrolling Instagram and online shopping. Whenever I visited, the house felt different. Emily's clothes were draped over the couch. Her expensive skincare cluttered the bathroom counter, and her attitude filled every room. One night, about a month before Thanksgiving, I overheard a conversation. I wasn't meant to. I had stopped by to drop off some homemade soup for mom because she'd said she wasn't feeling great. As I walked up the front porch, I heard voices from the slightly open kitchen window. Emily's voice was sharp and dripping with entitlement. "I don't understand why this is a debate. I'm the one who's here. I'm the one helping you. Harper has her own life. She doesn't need the house." My mom's voice was softer, tired. "It just feels wrong not to split things more evenly. She's still our daughter," Emily scoffed. I could almost hear her rolling her eyes. "Come on, Mom. Harper barely even visits. She's always busy with work or her friends. Who's taking you to your appointments? Who helps you when you're dizzy? Me, not her. And if I don't have a place to stay, where will I go?" Then my dad spoke up. "Emily's right. It's practical. Giving her the house keeps everyone stable. Harper can manage on her own. She's strong. She'll understand." It was like a punch to the chest. I stood there on the porch in the fading daylight, my hands shaking so badly I almost dropped the container of soup. I'd been helping them for years. I hadn't broadcast it. I didn't make grand speeches. I just did what needed to be done. And now that very quality, my independence, was being used as an excuse to cut me out completely. I didn't say anything that day. I walked back to my car, put the soup down on the front step, and drove home with tears blurring my vision. For a week, I oscillated between anger and heartbreak. My best friend Chloe listened to me vent over takeout. "That's beyond messed up," she said, stabbing a fry in the air. "You paid for half of their water heater, Harper. Half. And your sister is sitting there claiming she's the only one who helps." "I don't know what hurts more," I admitted. "That Emily demanded it, or that my parents agreed." Chloe leaned forward. "So what are you going to do?" At first, I didn't know. I considered confronting them, screaming at them, announcing I'd go no contact. But then, the anger hardened into something else, not pettiness, not cruelty, just a cold, clear resolve. They thought I'd just accept it quietly. They had completely forgotten one important thing. I'm dependable, and dependable people keep records. Here's what my parents and Emily didn't know. Because of all the money I'd put into the house over the years, my coworker's husband, who's a real estate lawyer, had once suggested, you should keep receipts and maybe even get your parents to sign something, just in case there's inheritance drama down the line. I had laughed it off, but something about his tone stuck. So I didn't push my parents, but I did keep every single receipt, the roof repair, the water heater, the electrical rewiring, even the new fridge that I technically bought for myself, but let my parents keep when mine broke and I borrowed theirs. More importantly, during my mom's scare, their financial advisor, Mr. Walker, had asked to meet all of us. At that time, my parents had casually added me as their healthcare proxy and given me partial authority over some medical and emergency financial decisions. Since I was the responsible one, they had forgotten that part. I hadn't. The final straw came on Thanksgiving. The whole family gathered at my parents' house. The smell of turkey and pumpkin pie filled the air, and fake warmth floated over simmering tension. Emily was in full host mode, even though she had barely lifted a finger to cook. She wore some cream-colored sweater dress, floating around like the lady of the manor. I helped with the dishes, set the table, and tried to swallow the bitterness in my chest. Dinner started off normal, small talk, jokes, my uncle making the same comment about the football game he always made. I felt like I was watching my family through thick glass. Then, after dessert, Emily stood up. She clinked her spoon against her wine glass. Everyone, she said with a big, smug smile, I have an announcement. I remember looking at her and knowing exactly what was coming. Mom and Dad have decided they're going to sign the house over to me, she said, placing a hand dramatically over her heart. They want to make sure I'm secure after everything I've been through. Harper's doing great on her own, so you know. She turned to me with a fake, sympathetic smile. You'll be fine, right? It was like the entire room held its breath. My aunt looked at me with wide eyes. My uncle shifted uncomfortably. My mom stared at her plate, cheeks flushed, and my dad just nodded slowly, like this was all very logical. And in that moment, I did something nobody expected. I smiled. Wow, I said, lifting my own glass. Congratulations, Emily. Must be nice to get a whole house handed to you. Emily's smile widened, but there was a flicker of confusion in her eyes. She wasn't expecting me to take this so calmly. So when are you signing everything over? I asked casually. My dad cleared his throat. We're meeting with Mr. Walker next week to finalize the papers. It's just a formality, really. Right, I said. A formality. I took a slow sip of wine and locked eyes with my mom for just a second. I saw guilt, shame, and fear. Good, because I already had my own meeting booked with Mr. Walker. For the very next morning, the next day, I walked into Mr. Walker's office with a folder so thick it barely fit in my bag. He greeted me kindly. Harper, I was wondering if I'd be seeing you. I raised an eyebrow. So you knew? He sighed. Your parents mentioned wanting to transfer the house to Emily. I advised them to think carefully about the fairness of it, but ultimately it's their asset. I nodded. I know. And I'm not here to throw a tantrum about them having favorites. I'm here. I placed the folder on his desk and opened it. Receipts, bank statements, transfers, documents. To discuss my financial stake in that house. Mr. Walker's brows knit together as he flipped through the papers. You paid this much over the last 5 years, I said. Most of the major repairs, the new fridge, emergency bills. I didn't make them sign anything formal at the time, but there's a clear trail. And since I'm already listed as their healthcare proxy and have emergency financial authority, I want to know what my options are if they try to transfer the house while ignoring my contributions. He leaned back, thinking, legally, you can't stop them from gifting the house. But if there's clear evidence that you significantly contributed to its maintenance and value, and that they're effectively disinheriting you in favor of one sibling, you could contest their estate later. It would get messy. Exactly, I said calmly. I don't want it to get messy. I want it to get clear. We spent an hour going over options. At the end, Mr. Walker agreed to do something that wasn't quite revenge, but would light the fuse. He would suggest that they formally document all financial contributions made to the house in the last 5 years by anyone before finalizing the transfer. For clarity and legal safety, of course, and he'd do something else. Schedule the house transfer meeting as a family meeting. Not just with Emily and my parents. They might not like that, he warned gently. I smiled. I'm counting on it. The following week, we all gathered in Mr. Walker's office. Emily walked in first, wearing a blazer like she was about to sign the deed to a mansion instead of a house she'd never so much as mowed the lawn for. My parents followed, looking nervous but resolute. I walked in last, holding my own neat folder. Emily's eyes widened. What are you doing here? She asked. Mr. Walker stood up. I invited Harper. Given her role in your parents' financial decisions and her documented contributions to the house, I thought it best she be part of this discussion. My dad shot him a warning. Look, we didn't want to make a big thing out of this. Mr. Walker smiled politely. Estate matters are always a big thing. We sat down. He started by summarizing my parents' wishes to transfer the house fully to Emily, to simplify future inheritance, to help the child who needs it most. Then he slid a stack of papers across the table. Before we proceed, I compiled a list of all documented investments into the property over the last 5 years. Emily looked bored. Is this really necessary? Then she glanced down. Her boredom evaporated, line by line, date by date. There it was. Roof repair for $1,000. Paid by Harper water heater $1,200. Half paid by Harper electrical rewiring $900. Paid by Harper refrigerator $1,100. Purchased by Harper emergency copay $600. Paid by Harper. Emily's head snapped up. What is this? My parents stared at the list, stunned into silence. They knew I'd helped, but I don't think they ever realized how much. Mr. Walker cleared his throat. Legally speaking, if you transfer the house solely to Emily while effectively ignoring Harper's financial stake, it opens the door for your estate to be contested later. It may also raise questions of undue influence and unfair enrichment. My mom swallowed. We didn't realize. My dad looked at me with something like fear. Harper, why didn't you say anything? I met his gaze calmly. Because I wasn't keeping score. I was helping my parents. I didn't think I needed to defend myself against my own family. Emily rolled her eyes. Oh please. So you paid for a few things. I've been living here and taking care of them. Doing the emotional labor. That doesn't show up on your cute little spreadsheet. I felt my jaw tighten. You mean the same emotional labor I was doing when you were off living with Jason and barely called home? Or the labor of sitting in the air with mom all night while you were on vacation in Miami? Emily's face flushed red. That's not fair. No, I said quietly. What's not fair is you standing up in front of the whole family, announcing you're getting the house, and I get nothing. Like I haven't been here too. Like I haven't sacrificed things for this family. The room went silent. Mr. Walker let the silence sit for a moment, then gently suggested an alternative. One option, he said, is to place the house into a trust that lists both daughters as beneficiaries. Emily can continue living here, but upon your passing, the value is split fairly, taking into account Harper's investments. Or you can structure it so that the house eventually sells and both children receive equal portions. My dad rubbed his temples. I just wanted to make things easy. I looked at him. Easy for who? My mom whispered. We didn't think you'd need anything from us, Harper. You're so capable. The words hurt more than I expected. I never needed money, I said, my voice shaking. I just needed to not be treated like I was disposable. Emily crossed her arms. So what? You're blackmailing mom and dad with your receipts. I turned to her. No, this isn't blackmail. This is the first time in my life I'm refusing to politely accept being pushed aside. In the end, Mr. Walker laid it out clearly. If they insisted on giving Emily everything and disinheriting me, they were stepping into a legal and emotional minefield. I could contest the will. I could demand compensation. I didn't want to go down that road, but I made it clear that I would if they pushed me there. I wasn't asking to take the house away from Emily completely. I was asking for fairness. Something shifted then. My dad finally spoke up, his voice thick. We'll put it in a trust, he said. Both girls. Equal share. Emily can live here as long as she needs, but it's not just hers. That's final. Emily exploded. Are you kidding me? After everything? You're going to let her bully you into this? I'm the one who needs help. I looked at her and for a moment, I saw her not as the villain of my life but as a spoiled, scared girl who had never learned to stand on her own defeat. You're not a child anymore, Emily, I said quietly. You can't live your whole life off our parents and then get angry when the world doesn't bend around you. She glared at me with pure hatred. I hate you, she spat. You ruin everything. I stood up, smoothing my shirt. No, I said. I just stopped letting you ruin me. We left the office with a plan in place. The house would go into a trust, split between us. Emily would be allowed to live there for now, but any major decisions, sale, renovations, new loans would require both our signatures. It wasn't perfect. It didn't magically heal my family. Emily didn't speak to me for months after. My parents called me often, half apologizing, half trying to pretend nothing had happened, but something inside me had shifted. I stopped bending over backward to be the dependable one without boundaries. I helped when I reasonably could, but I no longer sacrificed my own life every time. I stopped chasing their approval and focused on building my own future. A few months later, Emily tried to refinance the house to buy herself a luxury SUV. The bank called me because my signature was required. I said no. She sent a furious string of texts, calling me selfish and heartless. I didn't argue. I just replied, I'm not funding your lifestyle. Get a job, Emily. It was brutal. It was honest. And it was the first time I truly realized this was my revenge. Not some grand dramatic gesture, but a series of calm, firm decisions where I stopped being their doormat. Now, a year later, things are different. My parents treat me with more caution, almost like they're seeing me as an adult for the first time. They actually ask before making big decisions. They invite me over and thank me when I bring groceries. Emily finally got a part-time job. Not because she wanted to, but because she had to. The house trust meant she couldn't just leverage it however she wanted. The free ride had ended. We're not close. Maybe we never will be. But I don't feel small around her anymore. I don't feel invisible at my own family table. Last Thanksgiving, my mom tried to do another everyone say what you're thankful for thing. When it was my turn, I took a breath and said, I'm thankful I finally learned how to stand up for myself, even when it meant standing up to my family. My mom's eyes filled with tears. My dad nodded slowly. Emily looked away, and for the first time, I didn't care if she approved or not, because this time, I wasn't getting nothing. I got my voice. I got my power. And that was worth more than any house. If you were in my shoes, what would you have done when my sister announced, the house is mine, you're getting nothing? Let me know in the comments whose side you're on and if you've ever had to stand up to unfair family favoritism. If you enjoyed this story and want more real-life revenge and justice stories, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on the notification bell so you never miss a new episode.